Okay, back again. I suppose this is good practice for next weekend. I'm sure you've all seen the list of times. I must confess, I was getting a little bit muddled up. I kept saying I was going from 9 till 12 on the Saturday. It's actually 9:30 till 12:30 my time. My 9 o'clock is 3 o'clock in the morning Central Time. So I think it's going to be mainly people here in Europe and possibly Australia that'll be joining us at that time of the my 9 o'clock in the morning. I think is around about 9:30. Will be about sort of 7:30 in Oz, and then the following day it's my midday till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which I believe is about 10 o'clock in the evening in Australia. Anyway, here's an article I found that I'd like to share with you, which I think is particularly interesting. And if I do that, then I can read this article. This is from Reason. It's from 2009, so 11 years ago. Mentions a video from defense attorney's sting exposes Mississippi bite mark expert Michael West. This is by Bradley Balco. I say 2009. Let's go through what Mr. Balco has written. In 1992, a Phoenix man named Ray Crone was convicted of murdering a cocktail waitress named Kim Ancona. The crime was brutal. Ancona had been sexually assaulted, stabbed multiple times, and bitten on her breast and neck. Crone was indicted after a local dentist named John Piakis, who had received all of 5 days of forensic training, told police and prosecutors that Crone's crooked teeth created the marks on Ancona's body. At trial, a more experienced bite mark analyst from Las Vegas named Ray Rawson confirmed Piakis' findings. The bite marks on Ancona's neck could only have come from Crone. Rawson included a 39-page report with his testimony. It must have been convincing because the jury convicted Crone despite no other physical evidence linking him to the crime. He was sentenced to death. In 1995, Crone was given a new trial after an appeals court threw out his conviction over an unrelated legal technicality. Rawson testified again, and Crone was convicted again. After the second trial, however, the judge refused to sentence Crone to death, writing, "The court is left with a residual or lingering doubt about the clear identity of the killer." The judge's misgivings proved prescient over the strenuous objections of prosecutors who maintained that Rawson's testimony was in itself sufficient to affirm Crone's conviction. Crone's attorney, Christopher Plord, succeeded in getting a court to force the state to turn over biological evidence from the crime for DNA testing. The testing proved Crone was innocent. It also proved a match to Kenneth Phillips, a man who arguably should have been a suspect from the start. Phillips lived less than a mile from the crime scene, was already on probation for assaulting a female neighbor, and was arrested 3 weeks after Ancona's murder for sexually assaulting a 7-year-old girl. Several witnesses had described a man fitting Phillips's height, weight, and complexion to police near the crime scene the night of the murder. After 10 years in prison, including 2 spent on death row, Ray Crone was exonerated and released from prison in 2002. But Crone's lawyer wasn't quite finished. In addition to his job as a criminal defense attorney, Christopher Plord is a legal specialist in forensic science, having served on several government commissions looking at the role of DNA testing in the criminal justice system. Plord was livid that his client could have been convicted not once, but twice, based on obviously erroneous testimony that was presented as scientific. It seemed to confirm what Plord and other critics of bite mark analysis have long suspected, that there is little science behind the method at all. So in 2001, the lawyer decided to conduct a proficiency test on some unknowing and prominent bite mark expert. Plord chose Mississippi dentist Michael West for his test. West has long been under fire for dubious testimony in dozens of criminal cases, including one in which he claimed to be able to match the bite marks of a half-eaten bologna sandwich found at the crime scene to the dentition, obviously to the detriment of a defendant. Half-eaten bologna sandwich. I've written extensively on West over the last few years, most recently in a feature about the 1992 Louisiana murder trial and eventual conviction of Jimmy Duncan. In that case, I obtained a video showing West repeatedly jamming Duncan's dental mold into the body of the young girl Duncan was accused of killing. Forensic specialists say that what West does in the video isn't a remotely acceptable method of analysis and may amount to criminal evidence tampering. Duncan is on death row in Louisiana, based in part on West's analysis. Plord selected West because even though the dentist was still active in the Mississippi and Louisiana courts, he had been suspended from the American Board of Forensic Odontology since the mid-1990s, and therefore might not be aware of the somewhat notorious Crone case. Plord was right. In October 2001, working for Plord, a private investigator named James Ricks sent West the decade-old photographs of the bite marks on Ancona's breast. Ricks told West that the photos were from the 3-year-old unsolved murder of a college student in Idaho. Ricks then sent West a dental mold of his own teeth, but told him that they came from the chief suspect in the case. Now, he also sent a check for $750. That's West's retainer fee. Two months later, West sent Ricks a letter and an accompanying 20-minute video. In the video, West meticulously explains the methodology he uses to match bite marks to dental molds. Using the photo of Ancona's bitten breast and Ricks's own dental mold, West then reaches the conclusion Plord and Ricks suspected he would, that the mold and the photos were a definite match. Notice as I flex the photograph across these teeth how it conforms to the outline very nicely, West explains confidently. The odds of that happening if these weren't the teeth that created this bite would be almost astronomical. He adds that the matching patterns he found between the photo and the dental mold could only lead an odontologist to one opinion, and that is these teeth did create that mark. Though Plaud's proficiency test has been noted in court briefs and law journals, this is the first time the video of West's analysis has been published. Following the methodology that he has used in more than 100 other cases over the years, West confidently matches a dental mold and a photo of bite marks that have absolutely nothing to do with one another, decorating the fiction with the language of science. Though West is dead wrong, he sounds convincing, and it isn't difficult to imagine how he might prove persuasive to judges and juries. In February, the National Academy of Sciences published a highly critical report about how forensic evidence is used and abused in the courtroom. The study was especially critical of bite mark testimony, noting that it has contributed to a number of wrongful convictions over the years. The report concludes that there's simply no evidence of an existing scientific basis for identifying an individual to the exclusion of all others using bite mark analysis. I suppose that's because we're all made of flesh and we've all got teeth. Yet bite mark testimony is still common, and there are still plenty of people in prison as a direct result. It would be nice to see more proficiency tests like Plaud's with West, only not just from defense attorneys. More importantly, the criminal justice system needs to act swiftly when experts like West are shown to conduct bogus examinations. West failed Plaud's test in 2001. Yet as late as 2003, the Mississippi State Supreme Court still upheld West's bite mark testimony in a murder case. In rejecting an appeal by convicted murderer and death row inmate Eddie Lee Howard, the court wrote that just because Dr. West has been wrong a lot does not mean without something more that he was wrong here. And as late as 2006, Mississippi District Attorney Forrest Allgood relied on West's bite mark testimony to keep rape and murder convict Kennedy Brewer in prison. Although DNA evidence had shown back in 2003 that Brewer didn't commit the rape, Allgood argued that because West matched bite marks he claimed to have found on the victim to Brewer's teeth, Brewer must have bitten the victim while someone else raped her. Other analysis say the marks weren't even bites. Brewer remained in prison an additional 5 years and was only exonerated in 2008. Plaud's video sting ought to move public officials in Mississippi and Louisiana to thoroughly, if belatedly, investigate just how much damage this dentist has inflicted on the judicial system of those states. There are still dozens of people in prison due in some part to expert testimony that has been shown to be anything but. I think that's it, because yes, that was it. Might even have a look and see if I can find the video that they're on about. It's certainly not in the article, but I might be able to find it somewhere else. So let's come back here. Hello there. Yes. So not sorry. No, there's two of you here, but the thing is, I quite like it when people can catch up on this in their own time. But I don't have the technology to not do it by doing a live StreamYard video and being able to go through that report. So anyway, as I say, the Seventh Circuit decision was the final part was only half an hour. So I thought, as a special treat, we'll give you a bit extra with this little article, as I say, to do with the guy West. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Bite mark analysis. It's like, it's like when they used to drown witches, and if they drowned, they were innocent, and if they didn't drown, then they must be witches. It's just beggars belief. Anyway, we'll catch you all again soon. Take care for now, and let's just close that off. So yes, hi, William, hi, Sharon, and Rhonda. Yep, we'll catch you all later. Just rewind. I'm gonna shut that off now. I've got a beer waiting for me upstairs. So I have finished watching the Innocence Files. They were very interesting. So anyway, let's catch you again maybe tomorrow or the next day for some more chat. I'm still trying to get hold of his dudeness, but we'll hopefully catch up with him sometime. I believe he had to work late. Oh, well, that would be a shock to the system. Anyway, see you later. Bye for now.